Bong Joon-Ho's stock has risen significantly lately. From his historic Oscar Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay win for Parasite, and recently Neon bringing Memories of Murder back to video on demand streaming with an amazing digital remastering, Bong has quickly become a very huge name in the movie and film industry. And yet he's always been this powerhouse of storytelling in his home of South Korea. Recently I told myself I was going to watch every Bong Joon-Ho directed film, and after 7 films, 3 separate streaming services, and a ton of subtitles later, I've finally done it. Then I thought, hey, this sounds like a good video idea. Maybe I should talk about them. So I will! I'm going to be going in order of his films released, and then at the end give my ranking of them, from Barking Dogs Never Bite to Parasite. This is Bong Joon-Ho's films. I'll try not to spoil too much, but be wary for minor spoilers for all the films, and please forgive me if I butcher any names or locations. I know I'll get some wrong. Barking Dogs Never Bite is Bong's directorial debut of a feature film, and boy does it feel like it. I'm going to spoil my list a bit later when I say that I believe Barking Dogs is his weakest work, but don't believe for a second that that means this movie is bad, far from it. So let's start off with what happens. First, if you aren't a fan of seeing dogs hurt or even threatened, skip this movie. Ko Yeon-ju is a out-of-work professor who is annoyed by his apartment complex's neighbors' dogs, and increasingly does more and more things to stop them from barking. Park Hyun-nam is a bookkeeper at the complex when she notices the amount of missing dog posters increasing and decides to find out herself just what is going on. As the first words the movies open with is, "No dogs were harmed during the filming of this movie," you should expect some upsetting things to happen. But the way they're portrayed in the film is a wonderfully dark comedic style, and that's Bong's specialty, making something that would otherwise be a very dark or upsetting action and making it funny. None of his films do this better than Barking Dogs. I would argue this may be his funniest film, with moments that legitimately made me have to pause the movie because I was laughing so hard. And moments of this are beautiful and very well shot. For example, the scene of the janitor telling the story of Boiler Kim. Bong creates a small campfire story about a character that in all respects doesn't really exist or has much, if any, impact on the plot. But that scene easily became the most memorable of the film, not because it felt out of place, because I was so hooked by this ghost story of a man who lives in the basement of the apartment building, which, come to think of it, seems to be a running motif of Bong's films. Barking Dogs is my least favorite of Bong's films, and although there are a few rough patches in it, you can see just how he grew in the moments of brilliance that would perpetrate throughout his future films. Memories of Murder is Bong's sophomore film, but he in no way falls into the sophomore slump. Memories is loosely based on Korea's first serial murders in history, which took place in the mid-80s to the early 1990s. I'm going to provide some historical context, as it is extremely important to the overall themes of this film. This time period was a very rough patch for South Korea's history, as widespread protests by college students were prevalent across the country in response to the military, authoritative government that had taken over in the call for democratization. Bong himself has stated that he would eat breakfast, go to a protest, go to his lecture, head to another protest, eat dinner, and then would find newspapers after with the protests from the morning already printed on them. I myself am not so knowledgeable of these events, so I cannot provide as much context as I would like. However, I will leave articles related to these movements in the descriptions below. So in the film, Park Do-man, played wonderfully by Song Kang-ho, who we will see multiple times throughout Bong's films, is a local detective who is convinced that he can tell if someone is innocent or guilty solely by staring into their eyes. After being completely overwhelmed by the media frenzy, lack of preparedness, investigative methods that are outright torturous, and having confessions literally beaten out of suspects, Seo Tae-yoon, who is played by Kim Sang-kyung, a detective from Seoul, volunteers to help with the case in what ensures is one of the greatest murder mysteries in cinema. I am not exaggerating when I say this is my favorite crime film I've ever seen. The arc these two detectives go down becomes one of madness, where each answer seems to be a loss and their murderers slowly slipping away from them. Obviously, I want to stay as spoiler-free as possible, as the whole point of the film is a mystery, so I can't really prove why I think this is the best crime film, as I can't provide specific details, but I can provide specific details of the themes. So as I stated, during this time period, Protests were extremely common among college students against the military regime that had taken over. And I believe that the connection Bong is making here is the overall loss of life and the feeling of worthlessness. The victims of the murderer are left in awful locations. They're left in rice fields, they're left in ditches, sometimes with no clothing even on, as if it was torn off. This was not uncommon for those protesters who were shot and killed by the authoritative regime in Korea at the time. I think that is the real story behind Memories of Murder. Yes, it is a fantastic crime murder mystery, but what's going on outside of it and the themes itself is one of basic human empathy, and I don't think any other film captures the feeling of overall just sadness and despair during a time of heavy protesting like Memories of Murder. The Host is Bong's first real foray into his view of American imperialism, America's involvement in Korea, his overall views of America's relationship with Korea and the Korean government itself. Although these seem like very heavy topics, and they are, this isn't like The Purge where the themes are shoved down your throat. The themes are portrayed by how characters act, using satire and real-life events that are similar or inspired by. The film itself is partially inspired by an event in Korea in 2000, where a Korean mortician working for the US military in Seoul reportedly was told to dump a large amount of formaldehyde down a drain that caused not only environmental issues, but also put a strain on Korea's already shaky relationship with the United States. Bong asks, what if the drain led right into the Han River and created a monster similar to a 1950s sci-fi flick? And that's what happens in The Host. The Host is about Park Kyung-do, once again played incredibly by Song Kang-ho, who runs a snack bar on the coast of the Han River with his father Hee-bong, played by Byun Hee-bong, who also appears in Barking Dogs and Memories, and his daughter Hyun-seo. After Hyun-seo is kidnapped by the monster, Gang-do, his father, and his brother, an unemployed college graduate Nam-il, and sister Nam-ju, who is a award medal winning archer, decide to take matters into their own hands and try to find Hyun-seo. Obviously, if you watch this, it doesn't quite portray America in a flattering light. After all, they are responsible for the monster, and it's understandable why they are portrayed this way. But the Korean government themselves are also shown in a difficult light, as they're portrayed as bumbling, inept, and extremely bureaucratic. Just to put this in perspective, North Korea itself lauded the film due to its portrayal of America and South Korean governments. The film is a perspective on the Korean government and its history of the strained relationship between the government and the people, specifically college students. In the film and on other Bong films such as Memories, college students are unemployed even with a degree and are primarily activists. However, they themselves aren't safe from Bong either, as although they are portrayed as activists, they're also extremely oblivious and self-righteous, and as a current college student activist, it's a completely accurate portrayal. Nonetheless, even with these strong themes, the film is a great monster flick. I'm not going to say this for every film, because if I did, I would repeat myself over and over because it's true for all of them, but the acting is extremely well done and beautiful. Everyone does a tremendous job, and the cinematography is just so impressive given the nature of the CGI monster. I will say, the monster CGI is a bit wonky, but it's also the mid-2000s, so I gave it a pass. Overall, the themes of the film are so interesting on their own that they took up most of the retrospective. But you can't talk about this film in an enlightening and intellectually stimulating way without bringing up these themes. Mother is another murder mystery, but instead of the perspective of the detectives, it's the perspective of a mother of the suspect. Once again, the police are portrayed as just wanting to finish the case and get a confession, regardless if it's the real murderer, using extremely limited evidence. The mother is played by Kim Hye-ja, who is known in South Korea as an archetypal mother figure, and she's portrayed as a very downtrodden, overbearing mother of her son who will do whatever it takes to get him free. This is like if Carol Brady from the Brady Bunch suddenly became involved in a conspiracy where Greg was suspected of murder. Her son, Yoon Do-jun, is a mentally handicapped boy who is accused of murdering a local schoolgirl due to a very small bit of evidence found at the crime scene. The mother suspects his friend Jin Tai is the killer, as he is often shown to blame Yoon Do-jun for things that he did. Like Memories, the film takes many turns throughout, including a final answer that makes the entire film worth it. It's very unique in Bong's filmography as it's extremely funny, but it's deathly serious when it needs to be. For example, Jin-tae dropkicks a car mirror after the owners of the car run over Do-jun and speed away. Do-jun then tries to break the other mirror with a dropkick and falls flat on his face. Inside the police precinct, the two are interrogated, and Jin-tae says that Do-jun was the one who broke the mirror, and then smacks him and goes, "What'd you do that for, bro?" And Do-jun goes, "I don't know." Like Memories, I can't say too much about the plot as the whole film is a mystery, but it's an extremely interesting mystery full of twists, turns, and even a few 360-degree turns. Snowpiercer is Bong's first English film, however, it is still a South Korean production. The cast is a star-studded group of American, Korean, and British/Scottish stars with names such as Chris Evans, Tilda Swinton, Octavia Spencer, John Hurt, and many more, as well as returning Bong actor Song Kang-ho and actress Go Ah-sung from The Host. Snowpiercer is Bong's perspective on global warming, class, and the overall hierarchy of the upper class. To prevent global warming, the countries of the world decided to try and stop it via climate engineering, and they do. However, they also freeze the entire planet, killing all life except for one train. A man named Wilford built a train that circumnavigates the entire globe that can take care of the last groups of humans on the planet. However, the train isn't without issues, as Bong takes the stairs of class and instead turns it on its side. The poorest class lives in the back of the train, segregated away from the upper class via many compartments and armed guards to keep those in the back in line. Curtis, played by Chris Evans, bring together a group that will push to the front of the train and bring a revolution for those in the back. The film shows the working class trying to rise past those who wish to keep them down and eating strange protein bars. Some minor spoilers, but those in the back are not shown as the perfect working class men and women, however. Curtis specifically has a serious moment with Nam-gung that shows that he isn't as perfect as some believe, and his moments near the end of the film show that he probably would take up the ruling class and stay in charge as well, if not for one thing. The point is that however they can move to the front, in the end, they're still in the train. They're still in the societal hierarchy that imprisons them. Even those at the top are still imprisoned within the train. My final point for this film, however, is what Bong did to Harvey Weinstein. You see, the Weinstein Company decided to produce the film after having some footage shown to them. The Weinstein Company wanted over 20 minutes of the film edited and to add beginning and ending narration, but Bong persisted and got his wish as to have the film unedited after his director's cut got more positive scores than Harvey's cut. My favorite story from this, however, is in the film there's a scene with a fish. Weinstein wanted to cut it, saying, "Why is there a fish? We need more Chris Evans, more action." So then, Bong told a story about how his father was a fisherman, and the scene was in memory of him. So Weinstein relented and let the scene stay. Bong in their later interview then stated, "It was a lie. My father was not a fisherman." Continuing with themes of society and activism, Okja is a story of a genetic super pig and the little girl who grows up with it, Misha. In 2007, Lucy Miranda, who is played by Tilda Swinton, is the CEO of the Miranda Corporation. She is a self-styled environmentalist and states that the Miranda Corporation will raise 26 genetically modified super pigs by farmers around the globe, and in 10 years, one will be crowned the winner in a competition to be the greatest super pig. Fast forward 10 years, Misha, a young girl, lives with her grandfather, who is the farmer that was chosen to raise Okja, the super pig. The Miranda Corporation sends out Johnny Wilcox, who is played so incredibly delusionarily by Jake Gyllenhaal, to find the super pigs and pick a winner. Okja is declared the winner, however, in the truck ride to get her on a plane for New York for the celebration, the Animal Liberation Front, or the ALF, break Okja out of the truck as Misha is following Okja and trying to save her from becoming food. The film shows corporations as being soulless, uncaring companies who only want profit. Even Lucy, who at times is shown to be seemingly compassionate, only cares about being better than her father and twin sister Nancy. She tries to paint Miranda as a caring, eco-friendly company, as their labs and factories are cold, lonely, and dark. Obviously, companies doing viral marketing stunts to gain population approval is nothing groundbreaking, But Bong has such an interesting way of showing these corporations as being run by not only soulless people, but also complex characters who may want to do the right thing, but are also selfish. Let's go back to Nancy, who seemingly does care about the relationship between Mija and Okja, but at the end of the day, she doesn't really care about that. She just cares about being better than her father and her twin sister. Finally, although the ALF is portrayed for the most part as the good guys, there are some scenes showing that they may care more about their portrayal and message they give off more than the actual animals themselves, not unlike the company who is doing the exact same thing. Minor spoilers, but in certain part of the film, the ALF decide to have Okja go somewhere where they know is dangerous, but they plant a camera on Okja so that they can record it as proof for the world. Keep in mind, at this point, they had already saved Okja. They had broken her out of the truck and they could have saved her, but instead they let her go into obvious danger so that their message could be seen. Obviously, it's a very gray road between do you do what's right or do you spread your message. Now, be aware that although it is CGI animals, there are scenes of some animal cruelty which may be a bit intense for some viewers. The film doesn't glorify these scenes, and in some cases the film actually shows restraint with the actions that are seen. Obviously, this movie's main theme is environmentalism and the overall ethical treatment of animals, specifically in the meat industry, and viewing the animals as a message for companies or groups, rather than viewing them as actual living things. Alright, so Parasite. This one is going to be a bit heavier on spoilers, as it's very difficult to talk about this film and its themes without explicitly pointing towards events in the film. I'll try my best to keep it as non-spoilery as possible, but go watch this movie. Go on Hulu if you have Hulu. If you don't have Hulu, rent it on VOD, because this film is perfect. It is a perfect film for 2020. It's a perfect film for 2019, and it's just a perfect film in every aspect. So Parasite tells the story of a poor family and a rich family. The Kim family is a poor family living in a semi-basement, having incredibly low-paying jobs such as folding boxes and living in the poor streets of their town. The Park family is a young, rich family with servants, food, and most importantly, a house. The ultimate symbol of you made it. The themes of Parasite are of class and environmentalism and the effect the two have on each other. One scene in particular where a rich person is speaking about how the rain they had the night before was great. It cleared away all the smog and now they can have a party for their son. Meanwhile, a poor person sits nearby and hears her praise the rain as it completely flooded his house the night before. Neither the rich nor the poor are shown to be the good guys. As the mother of the Kim family states, she's nice because she's rich. The name of Parasite refers to both families. The poor are living and leeching off of the rich family in this case. However, the rich family also has the poor family cook for them, clean for them, drive them, because they seemingly can't do it themselves either. They both leech off of each other, and no one really wins in the end. The audience is given the idea that poor people can't be nice, because if they want to rise up, they have to take down others to do it. However, the rich are also shown to be woefully ignorant of their stance and the actions they may have on others. I will go out and say the film is perfect in every way and deserves every single Oscar it was given. From the symbolism of the film to the themes, the shooting, the set design, the acting, the funny moments, the dark moments, the serious moments, the joking moments, everything about the film is perfect. And everyone on the internet has already provided why. There's not much more I can say about this film personally that hasn't been said before a million times. However, I am thinking now of doing my own video of my own look into Parasite and what I've gained from it. However, everything that's been said about this movie basically has been said by somebody already. Even if you don't like foreign films, or you may think you won't like it because you aren't used to subtitles, I implore you to watch this film. This was the first film that was foreign that I went to a theater to watch, and the experience was incredible. That was a retrospective on every Bong Joon-Ho film. Obviously, I think you should go out and watch these films yourself, form your own opinions. They're all on streaming services except for Memories of Murder, which I have stated, however, is on video on demand for like $4, I think, to rent. You should definitely go out and watch every single one of these films, as although they're not for everybody, they're all good movies. I don't think there's a single bad film in here. Now, we'll do the part y'all came for, how I'm gonna rank the Bong Joon-Ho films. This is my own personal ranking, obviously, my own personal opinions. Don't get upset at me if I put one of your favorites down lower than some of the others. Obviously, form your own opinions. If you have opinions and have your own rankings, put them down in the comments. I would love to read them. So, here's my rankings. So starting off, I'm gonna start with my lowest rated film as Barking Dogs Never Bite. Obviously, this is Bong's first film, so it's going to be extremely difficult to top some of those high upper tier films that he's created, but don't think in any idea that because this is at the bottom of the list, this is not a good movie, because it's not. It is a well-written, well-paced film that is a bit rough in some areas. However, you can see Bong becoming a master throughout his films, learning his craft, and it's really interesting to go back and see the first film that started his career. Next up is going to be Snowpiercer. Snowpiercer, I believe, is the most accessible film for Bong, mostly because 80 or 85% of it is in English. So if you have some friends who may not be super into foreign films yet, or they really just don't like subtitles for whatever reason, this is a really easy film for them to understand. The themes are important, but they're not as complex, I think, as there are in other films. Bong reaches these complex ideas of class and hierarchy better in Parasite than he does in Snowpiercer, but Snowpiercer is still a great film that you should go out and see. Next is going to be Mother. Mother is a great murder mystery. It really is, but I think Memories of Murder is just that much better than Mother. However, Mother does explore different themes that are very unique to Mother that Bong hasn't really gone back to, and that's the idea of motherhood and erasing feelings so that you don't feel bad. Like erasing your memories and pretending that things aren't as bad as they really are. Next up for me is going to be Okja. Okja is very, very cute. She's a very cute super pig, and the environmentalism is a great theme for me, as I am an environmentalist, self-proclaimed environmentalist. It did strike a chord with me, and having the APA specifically not just being the good guys who are going to save the pig, but having issues and being similar to the corporation is something Bong does fantastic, and that's making no one in the film really a good guy or a bad guy. You have the evil corporation, evil, who wants to make money to sell pigs for food, and then you have the good group who are still going to put those animals in danger, and then you just have Misha in the middle, who just wants to hang out with her pig. And I will say this is the one that probably got the most emotional response out of me, but that is because I am such an animal lover that it really hit a chord with me. Next up is going to be The Host. The Host is so interesting in its ideas of American imperialism and America's strained relationship with South Korea that I was not aware of before this film. And that's something that Bong does fantastic, is he brings to light some themes and ideas that are specific to him and his country. Because in America, the Korean War specifically, we never really talk about. It's just forgotten. It's a war that kind of happened. It's stuck between World War II, which is the biggest war in the world history, and Vietnam, which was really the turning point of Americans against these proxy wars and against the government and the rise of counterculture. And Korea is just in the middle, forgotten about. And I think that's a major disservice with all the context why The Host is such a good movie. And not only that, it's just a good monster movie. It's a good movie about family and trying to save those you love against all odds. Whether you're American or Korean, you're gonna do what you need to do to save your family. Number 2 is gonna be Memories of Murder. Memories of Murder is this close to Parasite. I truly believe Memories of Murder is the greatest true crime mystery film in cinema. Every single film that I've seen, from Seven to Zodiac to this, Memories just blows it out of the water. Once again, having that historical context and Bong using his own experiences and pushing them into the film as a feeling while not showing you that experience. Because we know those college students are protesting and being shot with tear gas and beaten and overall shot, but that's not what's going on in the movie. What's going on in the movie is catching the serial killer. But both of these things give you the exact same feeling of dread and just overall feeling that humans don't care for one another. At the end, he just looks into the audience, and the way the little girl describes the murderer as just kind of plain. He could be anybody. And that's the scary part, is that the murderer could literally be anybody. You know, it's not the easy answer. They're one of us. And I think that's the scariest part, along with authoritative regimes, is that they're one of us. They are humans. In the end of the day, they're still humans. They just don't care. Finally, Parasite. You knew it was gonna win. It's this close, I swear. It's this close with Memories of Murder and Parasite. Parasite just edged it just a little bit more, probably because it was my first Bong film, and I'm extremely biased towards it, and I was very, very, very happy when the Oscars were announced and that Parasite won. But it really is perfect. It is a perfect film in every category, and I can't describe it enough that would give it justice. It's just perfect. Everything from it, from the set design, the set design is incredible, because there's a certain scene in the poor district in the streets, and you're gonna wonder, how did they do that? Look it up. It's incredible how they did it. It's gonna be number one for me. Obviously, form your own opinions, watch these films, come back to me, let me know what you think. Write in the comments your own personal ranking for these films. I really am interested to see what some people think over others. Finally, I'm going to drop all of the articles that I used for research in the description below. Thank you for understanding why this review is a week late. There's a lot going on here that I was not prepared for. I wanted to do justice the events that occurred in Korea during certain times, and I wanted to have a better idea to move forward and talk about those events in a understanding way. There's a lot of parallels right now between the student uprising in the 1980s of South Korea and protesting that are going on right now. These films currently really gave me a new perspective on what it means to be a protester and understand that you're trying to do what's best, and other people aren't going to want that. Other people are going to want to keep you down and not want you to move forward, but you have to stand up and you have to fight for what you believe in. Sorry I got super serious right there at the end, but thank you for watching through this whole thing. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of work. It took an extra week, as I said. So do the things, like, subscribe. My Patreon will be in the description as well if you're interested in that, along with my Twitter. If you like hearing strange ramblings outside of just the videos. But thank you for watching. I appreciate it, and I hope you all have a safe day.